Today I'm joined by Brad Reese with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Beach Properties of Florida. We're going to be talking about how Brad's business has just been exploding recently. A lot of it, what we're going to do is we're really going to dive in on exactly what he did when he first started, that now those seeds he planted, he's able to reap the harvest now. We're going to talk about the value of having a relationship with other agents and what you should be investing in and at what levels to see the type of growth he's had in marketing. Let's get to it. All right, Brad, this is a conversation I've been excited for us to have. I mean, we have these ourselves, but I just think that sometimes I think about, there's certain types of people that it's an exact model of how it should be done, if I can say it that way. So what I'd love to do is let's just go back a little bit and let's talk about when you first started. And then we're going to get into where your business is now because it's just amazing what's happening for you right now. But let's start when you first started. What were some of the things that maybe you did when you first started and you were just wondering if it was going to pay off, and now you're seeing some of those results?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, it was back in 2016, and I joined a group, and I sat in an office, and I made calls, probably like 60 calls a day.
Mm-hmm.
Just called online leads that came in through various lead websites. And that's kind of how I cut my teeth. I knew nothing about really what was going on in the market or real estate or market trends or numbers or statistics. And it was just kind of like strictly like, just get people to the agents that knew kind of what was going on.
Right.
And that's how I got started. And it started off kind of a big way with some big buyers right off the bat. And really, I went out on my own and went to a different brokerage and kind of just forced myself to sink or swim on my own, and it was tough. And I sat in an office by myself and I called, not even online leads because I couldn't afford online leads at the time.
Yeah.
So I sat in my office and I looked up people on the Property Appraiser's website.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just go through and randomly I paid for a White Pages ad or account, and I would go through and I would call people that I just felt like they had interesting properties, and really more than anything, it wasn't to try to solicit any sales. It was to see what was going on with the property.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever had the idea of selling, like what at what point would they consider selling, or
right.
What was the story of the property, or where they were at and how they were enjoying it. It wasn't really even about the sales at that point. It was just kind of trying to get people's stories and know who owned what, and piece the story together and really just make a concerted effort to just make calls. And it kind of blossomed into, calling expireds and being more aggressive and getting some listings. And I stayed, that stayed my business model for a while. And it really didn't take off until I moved to Berkshire Hathaway. I was able to reinvest back into my business through transactions over time,
mm-hmm.
and slowly just set aside money as transactions came in and set aside for marketing, and slowly buy it off bigger chunks and online leads, and just be more comprehensive in my marketing strategy, and that just kind of grew over time, but really took off with Berkshire and the tools that we have here.
Yeah, let me say this too. I mean, obviously we'd love to take all the credit at Berkshire, but I'm gonna tell you there was a lot of work done before that,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing your story, every single one of those conversations gave you the opportunity to build that database of people that as the market shifted, you were prepared. A lot of times we think that you've just got to catch lightning in a bottle, and you did. I mean, if you're in the water, you're gonna catch some waves naturally, but so to speak. But in reality, it was that database and those relationships that took some time. And then once you got to that point and you had those relationships, you had that database, then it's really just shifting the focus on how do I add the most value and how do I leverage my time with the tools, which has been a lot of fun to watch. So let's talk about that. I mean, literally, what kind of change did you see as far as, when you began to reinvest in your business? Well, let's start there. When you began to really reinvest in your business, you spend a lot more money than the average person on marketing now, and you're seeing a lot more results. What was that shift in mentality, and began to see some results with that?
It was scary. Honestly, spending money is scary at first because at first you don't have a whole lot to spend, and you just like, am I doing the right thing here? Am I throwing money away? It's expensive. Online leads are expensive to take. Advertising in local publications is expensive. Is it really working? Is it worth it? I kept hearing from other agents that print was out of date, and I still don't believe that. I believe that it's a long-term play, and it's a repetition thing at over years, and a certain amount of time when people have seen your ad enough in local publications that they're gonna recognize you as a brand, or a good local group to trust and know that that's someone that they can reach out to. So for me, really, it was scary at first to answer your question of start to allocating money and then paying it, and then you don't see results right away, and that's also really scary. So like, it's a long-term play, and even online leads, you might be spending several $1,000s a month, and even just online leads, and it's like you don't reap those until down the road, and so you're kind of hung out there for a little bit. And for me, it was just kind of trusting the process and really understanding that it was going to come to fruition if I just was consistent. And it wasn't about hopping in then hopping out because I was scared. It was just sticking with it, making a plan and sticking with it. And then slowly my budget increased over time. And if I spend X amount to make a much larger X amount, it's much worth. I'm seeing really good results. Yeah, and I would say, with you, what's been fun to watch also is that consistency really compounds over time. Now you're seeing it. I mean, this is some of you and I were talking just before we started on this. I mean, where you're seeing some of your folks that you don't even know where they're coming from now, because they're probably getting hit with multiple different directions with advertising, and with seeing you and some of the things that you're doing to stay in front of people. So now it gets to that time where we're really beginning to see some of those things blossom. Let's talk about some of the growth, because somebody could be listening here. I'm going to give an example. There's probably somebody that's listening to this right now that maybe has had some successes like you did to start with. Maybe they plateaued, maybe even pulled back like you did. And they're like, am I even doing this thing right? Yeah. Let's talk about, because I think sometimes you got to see before you can be. Let's talk about some of the successes and where you are now compared to that. I don't want to get into, but like volume wise, some of the transaction numbers you're doing, because I think that's extremely encouraging to people to stay consistent, that maybe like, am I even doing the right thing here? Yeah, so I mean, I went from a pretty lackluster volume the year before I joined Berkshire Hathaway. And really, part of it was the brokerage, and I hate to say that, and I'm not trying to throw anybody on the bus, and I have great relationships throughout the community, but it just, I didn't have some of the tools that I felt like I needed to take my business to the next level. For example, Boomtown is provided to us here at Berkshire Hathaway, and I take the platform and I take ads out on top of just a platform. Right. So it's not doubly expensive for me to take the platform and the ad space on top of it. So it's a nice tool to have. And my first, I think I joined in like May of last year. And from May to December, I think I had almost 30 million in sold pendings. Yeah. And then from January to this year, I've already got 30 million in sold and pending in the first 3 months. It's incredible. Yeah. So, the biggest thing I think that's great about this is not, I want people to know that continuing to do those things that you've been doing, even when you begin to say, oh gosh, and I'm sure you've had the people in your ear, like, what are you doing? You're spending all this money and you're not seeing results. And then you just had that understanding that you were trusting yourself, you were trusting the process. It's a scary process. It really is at first, especially when you work or, trying to pinch pennies. It is a leap of faith, and if you're willing to set aside money and not, spend it lavishly on yourself and reinvest, I always just kind of said, look, I can write this off my taxes at the very worst. Like I'm going to reinvest in my business, and I was, I took those leaps of faith and I did it consistently over long periods of time. And now, like you and I were talking about earlier, I get calls from people I don't even know where they're coming from. Right. And it's like I wake up at whatever time, and I'll got one. Standing in my kitchen, someone wanted to list their house the other day. So I don't know exactly where everything's coming from, and I don't have to, and I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Yeah.
Which
Absolutely.
is beautiful.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a couple little practical things that maybe some agents can jump in on. So let's talk about database management. You built that group of people. What did you do with those folks to kind of stay in contact with them? Do you have a system in place, or how are you staying? You've got so many leads coming in. How are you systematically trying to stay in touch with those folks?
Yeah, we have reminders. We really classify people in kind of like timelines, motivation levels. If someone has a high motivation level, we're pretty. It's pretty intensive. But we'll be all hands on deck and trying to really find. If they can't find it on market, we'll make it a point to do some searching off market for them. And if it's a longer timeline, it might be 6 months or a year. We're pretty consistent touches, but it's not as the market changes. If you're not buying and if you're not planning to buy for a year, the complexion of the market 12 months from now is going to be completely different than it is right now.
Right.
I just have to tell that to people all the time. It's like, look, we can start the process, and it might evolve for you over time and where you want to be and kind of in the product. But let's watch the market. Let's see what it does. I have people that say they wanted to buy in a year that kind of watch the fast-paced stuff that's going on right now and decide that they need to hop in now.
Right.
And so it goes from a year to 30 days real quick. So, just being available. I kind of feel like we're a little bit like counselors. We're not like trying to push people into sales. We're trying to like help them develop into ideas and school them and really give them knowledge on what's going on from a ground perspective of sales and activity and pace of the market. And, right now it's really aggressive. It's an aggressive market, and it's a tough market if you're a new buyer trying to get in.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing I love that you do also is the way that you stay so educated and just you become a resource for these folks. So you're watching what's going on with the market. I hear you talk to people and you share maybe a little different perspective on really maybe a second, third level conversation with people to educate them a little more. How are you gathering that data? What are you doing and what are the things you really focus on that you feel like adds value to those folks as far as your communication?
Yeah, I mean, if someone has something really specific that they want, it's easy for me to go in and typically try to find it and relay messages and say, look, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're seeing going on in watercolor over the past 6 months, and this is some insider information on what might be coming up or what might be available for purchase. And it's always really valuable information if someone is really serious about trying to buy. And especially in a market like this, I keep telling I've had several buyers that have come to me and clients that were working with an inexperienced agent, and from the time that they started 6 months ago, and having limited inventory and not someone that can present them with off-market options, the same product that they were looking at increased in 6 months. Literally the exact same houses increased in appreciation almost 20% in 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money to lose in 6 months by not having someone that is representing you well. So, and I'm not saying that to put any pressure on anybody, any other agents or. But I think it's really important to have good representation when you're serious and you're looking to make a move pretty quickly. Especially in this market, it is good to have an aggressive agent. It's good to have an agent that knows exactly what's going on in the market and has good relationships with other agents within the market.
That's something I want to touch on because I think that's something that you do really well is having that network of agents to call when you have someone that's looking for something specific, building those relationships. I think now more than ever as real estate agents, we need each other more than we've ever needed each other to be the best representative we can for our clients. Talk to me about how you foster some of those relationships. What does a typical call look like if you're calling another agent and you've got a buyer? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, just for example, I mean, even within Berkshire Hathaway, Beach Properties of Florida, I just make it a point to go and stop and talk to offices, just to get information, just to talk to people, see where they're at, see what they got, see if there's anything that's interesting to me. I have, at any given point, I might have 20 to 50 buyers in the queue.
Right.
That, like, I know range from product all over from price and location and, investment, and just all sorts of different angles. And I have to be able to present them options at any time. So I go around and talk to agents all the time within Berkshire Hathaway, but I also do it within the community.
Absolutely.
Just hop on a call with buddies there in different brokerages and say, what you got? And it's just an important kind of touch for me to be able to, to go in and see people. Agents aren't just going to come, throw stuff in your lap all the time. So it's important for you to kind of go around and shake trees and see who's got what and what might be even potentially an option. So for me, it's just going around and making those calls and seeing who's got what and trying to follow up.
I think that's the biggest thing is it's not just about asking too. It's sharing as you find some of those things that are possibly out there. I think that's one of the reasons why, just from an outside perspective, as you've built these relationships with these sellers that will potentially sell, is not just going, what do you got for me? What do you got for me? Hey, I've been working with a few people, listen, I'll let you know if you'd like on what's coming up and what could possibly be bought. Majority of the transactions are happening offline now anyway. So from that standpoint, those relationships with agents, and not just being a taker, being a giver sometimes. So as you have those, I think is so important. Let's wrap it up with this. What are you excited about? What are you excited about right now as far as life, business, everything that's going on? What really excites you right now?
It is all, I come into your office all the time and I always just am like, man, I'm so excited about the trajectory of my business and the relationships. It's really fun to get into really helping people. And like I was saying, a client that came to me that was working with someone else, wish they would have found me 6 months ago. It would save them some money, but also just becoming friends with them. I've got really, really good friends that are clients, and we go out and hang out and outside of, just business relationships. And it's fun to be active in the community and to be, just a contributing member to society and be part of the, be part of the bigger picture and try to make people's dreams happen on the beach. Man,
that's the funnest part to me too. Is I mean, literally, I don't know of a business we could be in, especially like with us on a coastal market, where people are excited to be here. They're excited to hear what's going on with us. They're excited. I mean, it is truly a relationship business, and you're doing the right things, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Listen, if you got something valuable out of this, make sure you reach out and let Brad know. I know he'd appreciate it. Also, if you're listening to this and you're outside the area and you have someone that's looking in the 30A market, Brad's your guy. So take care and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.